Washington, President Trump repeated on Thursday his false assertion that the United States runs a trade deficit with Canada, the morning after privately telling Republican donors that he had deliberately insisted on that claim in a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada without knowing whether it was true. Mr. Trump's private admission to having a loose grasp of the facts and his public refusal to back down from the incorrect statement, "The United States has an overall surplus in trade with Canada," were vivid illustrations of the president's cavalier attitude about the truth, and a reminder of how that approach has taken hold at the White House. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, said Mr. Trump had chosen his figures selectively in a conversation with Mr. Trudeau and in a subsequent Twitter post that repeated the claim. The president was referring only to the trade of goods, Ms. Sanders said, which ignores the larger trade surplus in services the United States exports to Canada. And in a briefing with reporters, she acknowledged that Mr. Trump had fabricated an anecdote he told the donors about unfair trading practices. Japanese officials, he claimed, conduct a test on American cars by dropping a bowling ball on their hoods from 20 feet high, and those that didn't are barred from being imported. Obviously, he's joking about this particular test, Ms. Sanders told reporters who confronted her about the veracity of the tale. But it illustrates the creative ways some countries are able to keep American goods out of their markets. Her explanation came 2 weeks after Hope Hicks, the White House communications director, told lawmakers on Capitol Hill that she sometimes told white lies on behalf of Mr. Trump. The latest instance of Mr. Trump bending the truth emerged after the Washington Post published an account of the president boasting about his disingenuous exchange with Mr. Trudeau at a fundraising dinner on Wednesday night in Missouri. On Thursday, the president refused to back down from the erroneous claim about the trade balance between the United States and Canada. "We do have a trade deficit with Canada, as we do with almost all countries, some of them massive," Mr. Trump wrote on Twitter. In an audio recording from the dinner obtained by the Post, a transcript of which was published on Thursday, Mr. Trump recounted how he pressed that point in a meeting with Mr. Trudeau even though he had no idea whether it was true. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, a very good guy, doesn't like saying that Canada has a surplus versus the US negotiating, but they do, Mr. Trump added in his tweet. The United States ran a trade surplus of $600 million in goods and services with Canada in January, according to the Commerce Department, a metric that reflects the difference between what the United States exports to Canada and what it imports from that country. In 2016, the United States had a trade surplus with Canada of $12.5 billion, according to a fact sheet posted on the website of the United States Trade Representative. But during the fundraiser for a Senate candidate in Missouri, Mr. Trump said he had refused to concede the point in a meeting with Mr. Trudeau, as the Prime Minister repeatedly pushed back. He said, "No, we have no trade deficit with you, we have none, Donald, please," Mr. Trump told the donors according to the transcript, calling Mr. Trudeau a nice guy, good looking. "I said, wrong, Justin, you do. I didn't even know," Mr. Trump said. "I had no idea. I just said, you were wrong. You know why? Because we're so stupid." Mr. Trump's retelling drew rebukes from some diplomats and lawmakers who argued that it reflected a dangerous penchant by the commander-in-chief to misrepresent the truth. The president's admission that he's literally making things up while speaking face-to-face with a world leader should stop us all in our tracks, said Representative Eliot Engel, Democrat of New York and the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. "How can any other government, ally or adversary, have any confidence in what our president says when he admits to lying?" The account was particularly extraordinary given that it reflected Mr. Trump's willingness to dissemble even with a close ally of the United States, albeit one that he has taken on aggressively in recent months as he presses to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement and secure terms that are more advantageous to the United States. During the conversation, the president said he and Mr. Trudeau had tangled repeatedly about the trade balance, with the Prime Minister saying, "Nope, we have no trade deficit," and Mr. Trump ultimately sending an aide to check, "because I can't believe it." The president then claimed that his contention had been validated, appearing to quote an aide he said had told him, "Well sir, you're actually right. We have no deficit, but that no."